Hey, this is Thomas, and today I will talk about property wrappers. So, by using property wrappers, you can define the access pattern of a property, and you can reuse this definition as often as you want. So, you can save a lot of time and a lot of code by using them. Let's take a look at an example. Here we have a class that doesn't use property wrappers, and this class has a property called trimString, and in the didSet observer, the string will be trimmed. That means that the white spaces at the beginning and at the ending of the string will be removed. And here we create an instance of test class. We apply a string with white characters to trimString, and if we print it, then we will see that the string will be indeed trimmed. So this is very common and it works great. But now if you have several properties that have this behavior, then you have to implement this each time for every property. So now imagine you have in your project 100 properties that is doing this, then this is a lot of work and you can forget it. And yeah, it's not good practice. So in this case, you can use a property wrapper. And a property wrapper is defined by defining a struct, enum, or a class that has the annotation property wrapper. And so this is a property wrapper called whitespace trimmed. And every property wrapper has a value called wrapped value. And by modifying the observers from this property, you can define the behavior. And in this case, it's the same as before. We are trimming the string. And the property observers will not be called, the property observers will not be called at initialization time. So you also have to do the same in the init method. Now, if we have a class, again, we call it test class, and we want to apply this behavior, then we just have to use the annotation whitespace trimmed, where this is the name of the property wrapper, and then these properties will have this behavior. Let's look at the test. We again define an instance of test class. We apply a string with white characters to test, and then we print it and we see there are no white characters in front of test. So it worked as expected. And as you can see here, it's not a lot of work to apply this behavior to a property. And now if we have many properties, it's very handy to use. In the last example, the wrapped value was a stored property, but it's also possible to use a computed value. So we again define a property wrapper. This is called max100, and it also has again wrapped value, but this time a get and set method. In the get method, the private property value will be returned. So you can see you can define properties inside the property wrapper. And in the set method, the value will be set, but at most 100. And now we again create an instance of test class 2, which has a property with the max100 property wrapper. And now if we assign 300 to test, then test is just 100. As you have seen before, property wrappers can have several properties inside, and you can customize the value of, or you can set these values of these properties at initialization time. So here we have a property wrapper called user defaults wrapper, and in the set and get method will the value be read and write to the user defaults. And if you are writing to the user defaults, you need a key, and this is done by this property. And if you apply the property wrapper, then you can set this key. And if a property inside a property wrapper has a default value, then you can set it, but you don't have to. But it doesn't have a default value like this one, then it's mandatory to set the default value. So besides wrapped value, there's another special property that you can define, and that is projected value. And you can use it to provide additional functionality. Um, Normally, the properties are not accessible from the outside, but projected value is accessible, and you can access it by using the dollar symbol. So here we have again a property wrapper that trims a string, but before we are trimming the string, we set the value to projected value. Beside that, it's exactly as before. And now if we have this property wrapper inside of test class 5 and we access property test, then it is trimmed as before. But if we access the projected value by using the dollar sign, we get the original value. So you can use this projected value to define additional functionality. And for example, in Swift UI, it is used by the framework for defining a binding. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.